you're watching us from. It's always good to be back. This is your favorite This Morning program coming to you live on QTV. And I am your host, Julde Njai. This morning, I have my co-host, who is Ade Drame. I'm getting used to having my co-host as Ade Drame.
Yes, and I'm getting used to being a co-host. Today, I'm pretending to be Ibrahim Abalde, so I hope people won't notice the difference.
No, they won't.
I'm sure they won't.
Thank you very much. And in the segment, I will just take you through our segments, which is our African Proverb, as always, our newspaper review segment. And of course, we have guest Pap Saine in the building to talk to us about his newly elected as the chairman of NEPA, which is the Newspaper Publisher Association of the Gambia. And we will be expecting the people from FSQA to talk to us about the recently validated groundnut draft regulation, which is a very important regulation because we know that groundnut plays a very important role for the longest time in the Gambia in terms of our GDP. So we will start straight. I know that we will not be following the running order as usual. We will go straight to our first segment, which is the, Uncle Pap Saine, Mr. Pap Saine, and he is the newly elected chairman of the Newspaper Publishers Association of the Gambia. Good morning, Mr. Saine, and congratulations.
Thank you, Julde. Thank you very much.
And yes, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And I should say to our viewers, he's a special guest today. He's not just a guest, because as well as being a guest who we're going to feature in a particular segment of the program, we'll also ask him to go through the newspapers with us.
Yes.
So he's not just a guest. We don't normally do this, but it would be criminal to have you in the studio and not ask you to not only feature you in the way that we want to feature you for the recent elevation that you've received, but also to actually get you to go through some of the newspapers.
Absolutely. So we will just start off with our African proverb. Mr. Aldi, what is our African proverb?
Well, it's a lovely one, but yet again, they haven't told me which country this belongs to. It says, do not look down on an idea. It may be the best one in achieving your goal. I'll repeat that. Do not look down on an idea. It may be the best one in achieving your goal. I know we framed it there with the map of Africa, but I suspect this is not an African proverb. It's more of a saying that could be universal.
Universal,
so, Mr. Pap Saine, could I come to you first? We always ask our newspaper guests to interpret the quote or the proverb, and do not look down on an idea. It may be the best one in achieving your goal. Do you agree with it, or how do you interpret this particular statement?
It was, well, I thank you very much, Ade. I thank you, Julde, once again, to be your special guest, as you rightly said. It's a great honor for me as the chairperson of our association of
we will get onto that later.
Yes, I said, thank you very much.
Yeah,
so for the proverb, I said,
yes,
it will be good always to take advice from elderly people to put you in the right direction. Yes, it's my view.
Sure. And for you, Julde, do not look down on an idea. It may be the best one in achieving your goal. What's your take on that?
My own interpretation of this particular proverb, it's an interesting one. This reminds me of the time when we were doing mind mapping at the Media Academy for Journalism and Communication, and we were told that no idea is useless.
Right.
Every idea is important. But then at the beginning you have all these sketchy ideas, all these ideas that are coming forward. But at the end of the day, you tend to come up with the final idea.
Yes.
But that does not mean that the initial idea it's not important. It's always important. In fact, sometimes the idea that you started off with, it could be the idea that will lead you to your final destination than that the last one that you realize that this one is the one that I'm going to take. So for me, I think that really do not look down on any idea. Any idea is important. And this also goes to say that don't look down on any idea that is given to you by other people. You know, if you're having a project, you're having an initiative, or you seek advice, you know, it's good that you weigh them to take the best out of them, but do not overlook other ideas, because if you don't need them in that particular instance, you might need them in the future. So that is why it's always important to take any idea, jot them down. That is why journalists were advised to always go with our books and pen and papers, which is now dying down because we are all now using the electronic media. For me, for instance, I always use my phone to write my stories, and whatever I'm doing, I use my phone. So you hardly see me with a book and a paper, unlike the time of Uncle Pap Saine, where they always go with their books and their pens.
I still go if I'm going to a meeting.
It is always good to have a second opinion.
This is it.
Yes, I believe so. I believe so.
Yes, and you know, I like the idea you've said there, because there are times when, and people might be watching this, they might be shy, and they might have an idea, and they hear all the loud people coming forward with their ideas, and you know, it might be a case of, I'm not so loud, I'm not so brash like those people, but I want to propose something. Well, you know what? Just put your hand up quietly and saying, can I make a suggestion? And that suggestion might be better than all the stuff made by all the loud-mouthed people who they're just good at being loud. It doesn't mean that they're good. You know, they're not shy, and that is why they get up and they stand. We've all been through it, and we've seen it in life. So if you're shy, don't hold back. If you have an idea and you think it might contribute, raise your hand and let people have your idea. So yes, that idea, which might be looked down on, because somebody might, when you want to get up, they're like, nah, not you again. You're like, well, no, I want to say what I want to say. So, you know, say your piece, and who knows? It might be taken on, and it might be the best idea of the whole lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah,
so with that said, we will now go for a short commercial break. When we return, the newspaper review continues. So stay tuned.
The art of juggling is a true spectacle of agility, coordination, and speed. A symbol of progression, precision, and mastery. "5G speed is like having the juggler in your pocket. With lightning-fast download and upload speeds, you'll easily be able to juggle even the busiest workdays. Whether you're a busy entrepreneur, a creative, or just someone who wants to stay connected, juggle your tasks with ease with QCell 5G speed. The future is here. It's fast, reliable, and efficient. First brought to you by QCell. We innovate, others follow.
Welcome back. If you're just tuning in, this is QTV This Morning, coming to you live from our studios on Karaba Avenue, and I am Julde Njai. So we will go straight to the a clip, and then from there we will come back to discuss it. We know that the UN General Assembly, the 78th session of the UN General Assembly, is ongoing. An interesting debate is happening there. So we will look at that clip and we'll be back. World leaders have gathered for the annual high-level United Nations General Assembly debate under the theme Rebuilding Trust and Reigniting Global Solidarity, Accelerating Action on the 2030 Agenda and its Sustainable Development Goals towards peace, prosperity, progress, and sustainability for all. Heads of state and government and ministers are exploring solutions to the intertwined global challenges, namely to advance peace, security, and sustainable development. On the first day of the debate, some African leaders took turns to highlight the most pressing issues confronting their continent. Here is Macky Sall, President of Senegal, addressing the General Assembly.
Senegal reiterates its firm condemnation of any type of anti-constitutional government change. The current emergency is also that of terrorism, which continues to gain ground in Africa without appropriate action taken by the Security Council. Particularly during its mandate in the Council in 2016 and 2017, Senegal has repeatedly raised the inefficiency of the peacekeeping operations in Africa.
Bola Ahmed Tinubu, president of Nigeria, also spoke during the debate. President Tinubu says leaders must reaffirm democratic governance as the best guarantor of the sovereign will and well-being of the people.
Our entire region is locked in protracted battle against violent extremists. And the turmoil, a dark channel of inhuman commerce has formed. Along the route, everything is for sale. Men, women, and children are seen as chattel.
Here is Cyril Ramaphosa, president of South Africa.
As we gather here, much of humanity is confronted by war and conflict, by want and hunger, by disease and environmental damage and disaster. Solidarity and trust between states is being eroded. Inequality, poverty, and unemployment are deepening across many nations in the world.
Filipe Jacinto Nyusi, president of Mozambique, says the support his country is receiving in the fight against terrorism is an example of how Africa can solve its own problems.
However, the issue arising is the need for a substantial support to these countries that, in a direct manner, countering terrorism with us in Mozambique in order to render the ongoing operation sustainable.
In the aftermath of the Second World War, nations gathered in an attempt to rebuild their war-torn societies. A new global system was born, and 78 years ago, the United Nations was established as a symbol and protector of the aspirations and finest ideals of humankind. For QTV News, Yeah, the UN General Assembly there and, African leaders yesterday and the day before, they took turns to debate on the most pressing issues happening in the continent. And things, most of the pressing issues that surface is the frequent coup d'etats, the terrorism and extremism in the sub-region. And of course, not only that, they also talked about inequalities, in the, continent, and they are calling on the United Nations General Assembly to distribute these natural resources equally among not just the African countries, but among world leaders. Mr. Sen.
Yes, I mean,
good
Pap Saine, I don't know if you want to take it first before.
Yeah.
I've been putting myself through watching all of them, by the way, and some of them are speaking today. In fact, Madabio of Sierra Leone spoke earlier today, about 5 hours ago.
Yeah.
Yes.
As you rightly said, we are facing serious problems in the continent. First, coup d'etat. To the jihadists. All this should be solved because without security, we cannot go further for the strengthening of the democracy in the country. What Africans should do now, the call is to eradicate overstaying of African leaders. They should respect their constitution. They should introduce a 2 terms limit. Overstaying is not helping them. In a sense, the economy crisis. There are a lot of the migration and also a lot of resources which are not utilized properly. All this hampered our democracy and also our good governance in this continent.
Sure.
I think.
Yeah, as I was saying, I've been watching all of them, and it's interesting. One of the themes and the threads that's run through almost every African leader who has spoken has been about, as well as the things you've mentioned, coup d'etats, unconstitutionality. They've all mentioned climate change, the impact of climate change on Africa, and the fact that we pollute the least but suffer the most. And so they want the world to step up, the so-called developed nations. And there's now a strong debate because for a lot of developing nations, there's a possibility that they might have discovered oil at a time when developed nations are saying, let's move away from fossil fuels, including oil. they're now telling them, well, why would you tell us to stop when, you know, this is the thing that might give us enough funds to actually take us to the next stage. So, you know, that's something that, you know, we really have to look at. And they've all been raising that. And what I've liked about this year, as opposed to last year, is that for me, they've all been raising these pertinent questions. Last year I was quite disappointed. A lot of them got up to the podium, they made really boring speeches. And the one that stood out for me last year was Namibia, where the president used the opportunity to tell people about his country and why people should come there as a investment destination, which I thought all of them should have done. But he was the only one who did that. You know, Paul Kagame spoke late yesterday. He was one of the, and we hope to feature him on the news today.
He's seeking fourth term.
Well, I was about to come to that. He's seeking a fourth term, and it's now been rumored that even a fifth and more, because he had the constitution change where he could seek additional terms, and then he had the constitution changed even further where he can seek an infinite number of, indefinite number of terms if he so wished. So there's that, and he's already combined, he's been there effectively 29 years already. So, you know, some of them, as Pap Saine said, they need to look at themselves.
Of course.
We talk about, you know, people overstaying, and what brought it even more sharply to mind, Denis Sassou Nguesso is there, and some people went on radio and TV claiming that they had overthrown him from Congo, but in fact they hadn't. But that just shows you the fragility, and he's been there 39 years. You know, so you know, there are all these things that Africa needs to look at.
Could be a
But I like what also Macky Sall said, that, you know, when Africa has had certain problems, the UN Security Council has not stepped in to help in the way that they should have done, in the way that we'd expect. If it was in Afghanistan or Iraq or somewhere, they would pass a resolution, the UN needs to do this. For me, it was interesting that he raised it, but it's like the UN, if they do it, they get criticized. If they don't do it, they get criticized. So you had MINUSMA in Mali, who've now been told to leave the country. So they've been booted out. They were there as peacekeepers, and they've been kicked out. So, you know, it's like the UN can't win, really.
No, that's true. And I also like the fact that Felipe, the president of Mozambique, so he mentioned that Africa's problems can only be solved by ourselves, no one else. So I think that is a very important point. For far too long, we have been relying on these developed countries, and it's like nothing seems to be changing.
It's an important, but it's a romantic view, because the reality of the world is that these developed countries, so-called developed countries, are the very ones who buy our gold, our diamonds, our oil. So if stuff happens here, they buy the uranium that Niger is producing. So they would always have an interest. So you can't say only Africans can solve it, because not only Africans are impacted by these you know, coup d'etats and these sort of incidents and events that happen. So they're not going to stand by and not get involved, sadly. But you know, romantically, we would like to say, yes, let Africans solve African problems. I'm sure Pap agrees with me that that's what we should do in an ideal world, but we don't live in an ideal world, sadly.
We should, as I said earlier, we should address the situation, the problems of migration, the problem of exploration of our minerals. All these contribute, and also the unemployment of the youth. All these contribute. With all these facts, you cannot overstay, because the youth compose 60%, 62% of voters. So the youth have the say. And now the youth, they are against overstaying. Either it's in your constitution or not, they are against overstay. The term limit is very good for everybody. It nurtures peace, and it will be good for everyone.
Yes,
I mean, it's my my view.
No, it's true, and you know, I think the reason why it's important is that many people have said that when you overstay, you're in fact giving people an excuse for coup d'état.
Yes,
because they think that there's no other way they can remove you, because you keep entrenching your stay. Museveni, 37 years now. You know, in Equatorial Guinea, 42 years. You know, Paul Biya, 40 years in power. You know, Cameroon in 62 years of independence, they've had 2 presidents only. I mean, you know, one for 22 years and one for 40 years.
And
now.
the president is 91.
Yes,
91 years.
quite.
Gambia is no exception.
No, we've only had 3.
3.
You know, in the time that this country has been. So, you know, it's, you know, if you included the kind of before independence, when Jawara was still at the helm of things, and his tenure as Prime Minister and President, effectively he was there for 30 years. Then you had Yahya Jammeh for 22 years. So, you know, as you said, Gambia is not an exception, but, you know, in that time I think Sierra Leone's had about, I don't know, 6, 7.
Presidents.
You know, so yeah, you know, Africa, we do need to look at ourselves, but you know, ideally it would be good if we could solve our own problems on the continent. But when we can't even solve our own country problems within our own borders, what are the chances of us solving problems across?
Issues, absolutely.
You know, you look at what they call the coup belt from Sudan all the way through to Mali. It's a straight line of countries that have had coup d'états in the last couple of years. You know, Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, you know, Guinea-Conakry.
The jihadists also are gaining momentum in our sub-region because they are well rich, they are well equipped, and people, especially the governments, should be aware about their strength in this problem of the sub-region.
Sure.
Yes.
I mean, in both Mali and Burkina Faso, they gave the excuse for the coup d'etat was that the civilian government was not dealing with the jihadists. And yet, over this very weekend,
many people were killed.
53 soldiers were killed in Mali, and the jihadists had taken over 2 of the barracks,
the
military barracks.
They are well armed, they are well financed, they are well trained. So also they are taking also momentum in the sub-region. So people should be alert about their strength in the sub-region.
Absolutely.
But for you, Julia, what's been your kind of takeaways from the speeches at the UN General Assembly?
For me, Mr. Ade, one thing that I am really happy about is the fact that African leaders are standing up for the continent, and they are telling it to the face of, you know, the developed countries that, you know, there needs to be equality, you know, the wealth needs to be evenly distributed among countries, and then not just based on one side. And then for the fact that, you know, I think they kind of realize Africa's worth and Africa's problems, and they also know that for far too long we were depending on these, you know, so-called, like you said, developed countries, but our problem seems not to be going away from us. So I think now, because they talked about the African Continental Free Trade Area, which I think is a very important one, and African countries should really implement the African Free Trade Area. And of course they talked about the ECO, which is also very, very important. You know, unless and until we have all of these things in place, we will just, you know, be beggars. I like the fact that the president of South Africa and Burkina Faso, they always like, okay, we have to, the natural resources have to be evenly distributed, that we are not beggars. He always tells them that we are not beggars. And Africans, we should not see ourselves as beggars. I mean, we have all the natural resources in our continent, so we should not really be viewed as beggars, and we should not also see ourselves as beggars.
Yeah, I think the world treats us as that because we behave as that. And I've always used the analogy, if you come to my shop and I'm selling something that you can't buy anywhere else, I will set the price, not you. Absolutely. I'm selling it, you're buying it. Yeah, we have uranium in Niger. Niger should not be having to rely on Nigeria for its electricity. When you're making billions. You have the Wagner group, the military, private military group, saying that in the next 3 years they hope to make 100 million from contracts that they will sign with African governments. $100 million. Do you know how much you could do with $100 million in those very countries that are selling? Those same countries are ready to spend tens of millions buying arms instead of putting boreholes
electricity
and electricity in their
roads,
own countries and building roads. It's insane.
And also to help for the health
It's
sector.
insane. But you
The
buy
health sector.
arms, you buy armored vehicles, you buy helicopters, and it's like ridiculous. I mean, yeah, we need to check ourselves.
Absolutely. So with that, we will go for a short commercial break. When we return, the program continues. So stay tuned.
5G has always been at the forefront of our lives, and the way we use it has evolved drastically over the years. With the advent of 5G internet, we are entering a new era of technological innovation that promises to transform the way we live, work, and play. 5G internet is capable of providing data speeds up to 100 times faster than 4G, making it the ideal solution for streaming high-quality videos, playing online games, and downloading large files on the go. 5G internet is already transforming cities across the globe, powering smart cities, self-driving cars, and virtual reality experiences that were once thought impossible. 5G internet is also paving the way for Internet of Things, allowing for seamless connectivity between devices and the creation of a truly connected world. For the first time in the Gambia, QCell is bringing tomorrow's technology to you today with the launch of QCell 5G Internet. Get ready to experience the out-of-this-world wonders of QCell's 5G Internet. For more information, call 111. QCell. We innovate, others follow.
The future is now with QCell's 5G network. Experience speeds like never before with our new 5G Rocket Fixed Internet plan. Get speeds from 10 Mbps to 100 Mbps with your 5G-enabled devices. Walk into QCell headquarters to get one of our 5G routers and experience the true feeling of 5G. Only with QCell. QCell brings you the future. Tech, innovation, incredible speed. The future is now. For more information, call our customer care on 111. QCell, Sunyabus. We innovate, others follow. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back. If you're just tuning in, this is QTV This Morning program, and I am joined by Ade Drami, who is my co-host, and our newspaper review guest, Pap Saine. And Mr. Saine, now we will go straight to your newly appointed or elected position, which is the chairman of the newspaper publishers of the Gambia. But before that, tell us about who is Pap Saine. Take us through your journey.
Well, it will take time. Because
we have time, but how did you get started in the profession? Let's start there.
Well, it started with Radio Seat 1970. Radio Seat was the first private radio station in Africa. So it was brought here by a Swedish lady, Britt Watner. And then after, with the pioneers who started, we are Sol Njai, who was at Radio Gambia, was our boss. And also you had late Data Haidara, Baima Style, Lucia Dijeng and others. The list is long, I cannot recall everybody. But I started with Radio Seat. After Radio Seat also, 1983 to 89, we had a paper called Senegambia Sun, which was financed by the Senegalese daily Le Soleil. Beside that paper, I contributed to local papers.
So let me pause you there. So are you saying yours is an unusual journey because you said Radio Seat before the newspaper? For many people, they start from newspapers or from the print media, and they gravitate to either radio or to TV. But you started on radio. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's slightly unusual.
Yeah, I started with Radio Seat 1970, and 83 to 89 we had Senegambia Sun, the late Babukar Gay, late Deida Haidar and myself. We are the editors. After the collapse of the Confederation, the paper was dissolved. So it was why. But nevertheless, since I had the ambition, I used to contribute with our local papers. Topic Magazine, edited by Nana Gray Johnson, The Gambian by Ngany Thomas, the government paper, which was
Daily
edited.
Observer?
No.
The Daily, the Gambia Daily.
The Gambia Daily.
Yes,
Yeah.
was edited by Cherno Jallo. I used to
Right.
contribute. Then in '91 we decided. '91 we decided to establish the point.
Right.
But before that, I was employed by Reuters up to now.
Okay, right, okay.
Reuters, I'm the
Yes.
oldest stringer in Africa.
Right.
I'm with them 47 years now.
Okay.
Yeah, with Reuters. Then also RSF, I'm their correspondent in the Gambia, and Africa, I'm their also dean for the past 30 years for defending press freedom.
And you happens to be the co-founder of the Point newspaper.
This is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I said 91.
91.
Again,
Yeah.
we came back. You know, the trio, we started Senegambia Son,
Yeah.
1983. Led Babukar, Gay, led Deida Haider, and myself. 91, we came back to see that it was necessary to have a tabloid newspaper because it was rare to fill the vacuum.
Yeah,
We established the paper.
Right.
First, we started with weekly, a weekly paper.
Okay.
It was weekly, 91.
1991.
It was then after 3 months, Babukar resigned. Then I continued the struggle with Deida. But Babukar also established radio station and a newspaper at that time when we parted. So in a nutshell, the newspaper industry, about 32 years, I'm the co-founder of The Point, and we are trying to get the struggle.
Sure.
We thank God, we won several awards internationally and locally.
Sure.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And recently you are elected as the chairperson of the Newspapers Publishers Association of the Gambia. Tell us about this particular association. Why was it set up in the
Well, the association was established 2018. And the members, publisher Sherry Bojang, who's heading the Standard, Pasal Jang, the general manager of Standard, and also myself for The Point, and Baba Haidara. Foria, you have Samsa, and the Daily News, you have Madi Sise.
Right.
So in a nutshell, 2000, Malik Jones also was a member when he had a newspaper, but the paper did not survive long.
That's right.
Yes. In a nutshell, the purpose of establishing this association was to come together to promote good governance, democracy, and also to make a difference, to play our role in the economic development of the country by informing, educating, and entertaining the public, which is very challenging because newspapers production is very costly because printing materials are very expensive. We are trying our level best to come to unite, to work for some purpose, to some goal, to meet the challenges, to contribute to promote and to contribute our quota in the national development.
So under your leadership, what are some of the changes that we are expecting or we are foreseeing? Because you did mention that in terms of printing, there is a lot of cost involved in newspaper, like any other media. So what are we expecting? Are we expecting a different newspapers, their mode of operandi and all of that?
You know, it's a teamwork. It's why that I said I'm very overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed. So to have this association with my colleagues is not an easy task. It's a challenge.
So you made the plea that you want them to come along the journey with you.
Yes.
When you made your speech.
And so also to work with government.
Right.
Our main partner is government. And to clear all the misunderstanding between the press and the government. We are not enemies. We are partners in development. We can complement each other. We support each other. It's my view. Is why I said our doors are open for government to come to clear the air, the misunderstanding to work together for the benefit and the development of the country.
Okay, so over your long career in
53 years.
print media, what are the changes that you have seen in the media generally and in the print media specifically? Because this is the Newspaper Publishers Association. That what are the changes, the most obvious changes that you have seen in that span?
Well, now, thank God. At first, with the former regime, we had tough time with killings, burning our media houses, people arrested, journalists arrested or going to exile.
Sure.
But now, thank God, with the with Barrow government, we don't have censorship.
Sure.
But as I said, we need more support in the government in terms of advertisement.
Yes.
Because without its advertisement, we cannot survive. We cannot sustain. We cannot sustain the paper.
Sure.
Many people thought it's because of the sales of the newspaper, but not.
No.
For example, I can give you an example. Newspaper is sold $15, but the $250 will go to the vendors. So we, the publishers, will have only $12.50.
Yes.
For the it's only through advertisement that we are surviving.
Sure.
But the advertisement also, sometimes payment delays. Most of the institutions, they don't pay upfront.
Right.
And before they pay, it takes times. So with all this, it needs to be regulated. It needs to be discussed with government to help us to be paid in time without delay.
And you say government, but I think also there are lots of private businesses who, I guess, they must advertise because they want people to be aware of the services that they offer. So I guess, I mean, do you also have problems with them when it comes to payment?
Well,
I mean, I know, sorry.
For the private sector, within 2-3 weeks they pay.
Okay.
But government, their
processes, there's a lot of bureaucracy.
Bureaucracy. So it's why I said there's a need for us to have a tete-a-tete with the authorities to point out all our challenges so that they can help and we go forward.
Okay, I know it's the Newspaper Publishers Association, but we live in an age where the media has exploded, particularly social media. What sort of, you're talking about sort of meeting with government, having discussions, what about with other media who are not printers, they're not publishers as such, television, radio and so on?
You know, for the social media, many people, they are in their houses or offices,
just
they release fake news. Fake news.
Click a few buttons and you send something out to 1,000 people.
Fake news are also attacking people, misinformation, a lot of things.
Sure.
The social media should be regulated because they are causing harm.
Sure.
In a sense, most of the news are fake and are not accurate. With newspaper, you take your time to verify your source.
Sure.
Sometimes they feed you certain information, but as a publisher or editor, you must take your time to verify the source, not to come to say boom and it's false. So we should take our responsibility to have balanced story, to be objective. And also to speak always for the voiceless.
Because that was one of the reasons why I asked that question about the kind of social media, we see it as unregulated. For the Newspaper Publishers Association, do you also talk about ethics and standards? Are you also concerned with that, the association? And if so, in what way are you monitoring those?
Of course. If at all we see something wrong, we are colleagues. You can call your colleague and say, this. You give your advice.
Sure.
Yes,
sure.
I think it's the best way.
Okay.
It is also said that the advent of the, online or social media is a threat to these newspapers. What are you doing about that? And it is also said that eventually these newspapers will die down because of the advent of social media and all of that. So as the new elected chairman, what are you doing, or what are you coming up different, innovative ways to ensure that the newspaper industry does not die down eventually?
As I said earlier, it's through advertisement we are surviving. Now, many people, they buy the newspapers because of advertisement.
Yeah.
Vacancies, business, or something like that. So because of that, newspapers are still surviving in the market. We have a tough time. We are online. All the people, all our newspapers, we are online. But nevertheless, we are trying to maintain the hard copy in the street because of advertisement. So through advertisement, we are sustaining the paper.
And if I can just come in quickly, I mean, it's one of the things that kind of both surprised and delighted me when I came to the Gambia was how many newspapers there are that people buy physically.
Yes.
And I did wonder why. And then you've said it, because I then realized that for a lot of them, when you go to the online version of the newspaper, you won't get the adverts for jobs, for this, that, but you have to buy the physical paper.
Yes.
So a lot of people, and that's quite a clever thing to do, because I thought, how can they survive? And then when I would flick through, I would see lots and lots of adverts from UN agencies, from government, from private businesses, and so on. And of course, if you want that, you have to buy the physical newspaper.
Yes.
So
and also it's good for your records.
Yeah.
It's good for your records.
Yeah. So it's
Let's now shift our attention to your awards.
My awards.
He has many. Where do you want him to start?
The recent ones. I know our Pap Saine has lots of awards. So let's start with the recent ones.
Yeah, but I thank God. 2006, John Palm Prize from Germany. Press Freedom. Press Freedom. International Press Institute, Vienna, 2010. World Press Freedom Hero. I was awarded World Press Freedom Hero by the IPI, International Press Institute. 2014, in South Africa, again, IPI awarded me a book on my life with 9 other journalists, more prominent in Africa, with our careers. 2014, this same year also, the Post of Zambia, the biggest newspaper, gave me an award. The same year, 2014, I was invited by Al Jazeera so to honor me as a World Press Freedom Hero for 1 week, which was a privilege. 2019, the Black American Journalists Association named me that time Man of the Year. The 50 states with the all the Black American journalists, they came together, voted for me. Why? Because during Jammeh time, I was arrested many times. I was jailed and sacrificed my life for press freedom. I did everything possible. My partner, my friend, Dada, was killed. But nevertheless, with all the threats that I was receiving during that time, I continued the paper. I received a lot of threats. But I believe in God. I have the passion of the work. Is why that I continue still yet about the job. And beside that, locally, I won
quite a few.
Yes, Gambia National Olympic, GRTS, they gave me award because I used to contribute for the sport with West Coast. All of them, they honor me because the services that I have rendered for them, for the nation. The Banjul Muslim Elders 2014, also they gave me an award through my contribution for the paper, because I used to give them free advert, free coverages. In a nutshell, there are so many, but maybe I forgot. I forgot 2021 with the business executive in Ghana.
Right.
They awarded me the most outstanding CEO in the media fraternity in the continent. It was in Dubai, and your guys cover it. So I was very pleased. Ismail Nyasu covered it. So QTV covered it.
Right. So as a doyen in the media, you have achieved lots of things, awards, Press Freedom Award and all other awards in the media. What advice would you give to the young people who are coming up? You know that, now the media, it's changing. Before it used to, during your time, you used to play your watchdog role very well. But now it's like that is really dying down. The watchdog role of journalists is really dying down. What advice would you give to
the youth, the young journalists? They believe only the internet, Google, all the things. And many things, Google don't have the records. It's good you go to elderly people in the profession to learn many things. And also the youth, most of them, they don't want to take advice. They don't go to the elders because the elders cannot go to you to talk to you. If you, as a young people, come to us, we help. Sure. So they need to be contacted because this job, no man is perfect. Every time, every day, we learn the job. Don't have the shy or complex to ask people. Every time, with my age, I read. With my age, I'm not trying to go to Ade to ask him to correct me, to give an opinion, because I'm dealing with the public. So when you are dealing with the public, as you rightly said at the beginning of the program, you must have second opinion in anything. So the young journalists, they should learn from the elders, and anything that they want to be guided. Yes, yes. I forgot to mention also the point. Prominent people started with the point, who are government ministers. The foreign minister, Dr. Mamadou Tangara, Ibrahim Masila, Minister of Works, Ibrahim Sankare, government spokesman, all Ambassador Esa Bokarsi and others. They started with the point.
Okay. So let me ask a question that I always ask people who have had varied and successful careers. Any regrets? Anything you thought, oh, I wish I had done this or that at all in life or in the profession?
For me, since I have the passion, I didn't regret to be journalist. Okay. Because when I was childhood, at the age of 7, my aim was to be journalist.
Sound like me.
I used to have, a tin of milk. The pot, I take it like this as the microphone, just to show my ambition about the job.
Okay, nice. That's a good one. Anything from you, Julia?
Yes. Before we go, most of these young journalists now, we're saying that okay, we're leaving journalism for a different field because we believe that journalism does not have enough money.
Yes.
I mean, what would you advise us?
Is what I'm saying.
Has never had money, but anyway.
What are you doing about that? As your role as a newly elected chairman, do you also consider that in terms of pay rise for journalists? Because we always complain about the pay and all of that.
Trust me, that's as old as the profession itself.
Well, for the job, you need commitment, dedication, and the passion.
Sure.
And things are not easy for everyone. But for us, we are trying our best to make sure that they are paid in time, or also to assist in the medical bills. Sometimes when they have prompt business to settle, if we have it, we assist, or we give them credit. It's not an easy job. Everywhere where any offices, it's not only the media, but now all the companies are facing problems.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Thank you very much, Mr. Saine, for coming. We really appreciate it. And congratulations once more for your newly elected position.
Thank you.
Mr. Ade, that's all we got time for.
Gosh, already?
Yes.
Doesn't time fly?
It does.
But for me, Pap Saine, somebody I've always admired. It's a pleasure having you here. And for me also, congratulations on being elected chairperson.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I should also thank you, your team, especially you, who is heading the team of the editorial, for the good job that you are doing for the nation without fear or favor, and educating, entertaining the public.
Thank you.
You too, the QTV also is contributing their quota in the national development. So bravo to the owner, Mohamed Jah, the staff, and the management of QTV.
Thank
you very much.
Thank you very much.
That's all we got time for. But before we go, Mr. Ade, today is our girl's birthday. Jennifer Sonko, happy birthday. We wish you all the best in life. You're an amazing person. So stubborn. She is very, very stubborn, but she's amazing. Happy birthday. We wish you all the best. May you witness many more years to come with good health, long life, progress, peace, and prosperity. Mr. Ade?
Just happy birthday to Jennifer Sonko. I'm only surprised that it's not a public holiday. But
exactly. Happy birthday, Jennifer. But before we go, my today's outfit, my today's gulo is sponsored by Njai Charahwal Market. He's located at Serekunda, and you can contact him at 5910785. You see this beautiful outfit, mashallah. If you want to look like this,
or better,
you can. Only Njai Chara can make you glow like this. So you can contact him at 5910785. He's at Serekunda, and currently the second cohort for the women, it's ongoing. But if you want to be part of the third cohort, you can still go to his office at Serekunda and register to be part of the women who will be benefiting from his 3-month course to, be self-independent. Don't just depend on people. Be independent, and the only way you can do that is by working. He has a very amazing team. He has Aji, Salma, Omar, Sekabai, Awa, Gorbunyao, Jari, Mort. All of you are so amazing. Suma Haribi Mom, Omar, Momode Solal always. He's my stylish. So you say Masoli always say Hamane Omar, Mosi Jar, Suma Waila. Mashallah, Njai Charahwal Market. That's all we have for you for today's edition. Until we come your way next week for another interesting edition. Until then, bye-bye, and do enjoy the rest of our programs.